Welcome to this explainer. We're about to go on a wild, macro to micro journey into the incredible science of how exercise literally rewires our bodies and our brains. Look, we all know that working out is good for us, right? But today we're going to dig into the exact cellular and structural mechanisms that actually make it happen.
Okay, let's kick things off with a pretty staggering statistic straight from the NHS. Research suggests that the average adult spends more than 7 hours a day sitting down. Whether you're chained to a desk, sitting on the bus, or just chilling on the couch, our heavily sedentary lifestyle has become a modern silent killer. Here's the agenda mapping out our journey today. 1. The silent killer. 2. The exercise prescription. 3. Building better bones. 4. Rewiring the brain. And finally, 5. The runner's high myth.
Section 1. The silent killer. Our modern sedentary lives.
We're starting with the big picture. When you really think about our daily routines, it's wild how much technology and a massive drop in manual labor have essentially engineered physical effort totally out of our lives. We've got machines washing our clothes, cars driving us everywhere, and screens constantly entertaining us. And this extreme lack of activity is exactly why health departments view our lifestyle as a silent killer. The NHS points out that regular physical activity is a powerhouse when it comes to disease prevention. We're talking about heavily reduced risks for coronary heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and even certain cancers and dementia. Simply moving your body on a regular basis can literally drop your risk of early death by up to 30%. That is huge.
Section 2. The exercise prescription. ACSM and NHS guidelines.
So, now that we understand the sheer scale of the problem we've created for ourselves, what's the actual medical prescription for optimal health? How much do we really need to move? Well, the American College of Sports Medicine relies on something called the FIT principle. This helps professionals systematically prescribe exercise for everyone, from healthy folks to patients managing diseases. FIT stands for frequency, meaning how often you work out, intensity, how hard you're pushing it, time, how long the session lasts, and type, whether you're doing cardio, lifting weights, or stretching. When you put all those principles together, the magic number to remember, straight from the UK Chief Medical Officers, is 150. You want to aim for a target of at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity over the course of a week. And by moderate intensity, we mean you're breathing faster, you're feeling warmer, and while you could probably still have a conversation, you definitely wouldn't be able to sing. You can sprinkle this throughout your everyday life, but hitting that 150 mark is absolutely crucial. Section 3. Building better bones. The structural impact. Let's peel the onion back a bit and drop down to the structural level. We're going to look at how mechanical loading, which is the actual physical stress you put on your body when you exercise, changes your skeleton. Here's a mind-blowing fact. The window to build up your maximum bone density closes way earlier than most people realize. Think of your skeleton like a bank account. You're building up your deposits of bone mass during your first 2 decades. You hit your absolute peak right around the age of 30, and from then on out, you are basically just managing a gradual decline. The data builds a massive case for getting started early. A huge meta-analysis looking at premenopausal women proves that mechanical loading actively and significantly increases bone mineral density in critical spots like the lumbar spine and the femoral neck, specifically for young adults under 30. High-impact jumping and combined resistance training actually wake up your osteoprogenitor cells, forcing your bones to adapt and get denser before that critical window shuts for good. Section 4. Rewiring the brain, treating MDD and neurogenesis. Let's dive even deeper now, moving from the structural down to the cellular level. We're going to explore how working out acts as a surprisingly potent treatment for psychological conditions, specifically major depressive disorder or MDD. You know, for the longest time, it was conventional wisdom that you were simply born with all the brain cells you'd ever have. Actually, scratch that. Scientists now know the adult brain can continuously grow fresh cells through a process called neurogenesis, especially in areas like the hippocampus. And crucially, if this process slows down or gets impaired, it's strongly linked to depressive symptoms and a literal shrinking of the hippocampus. And here is where exercise performs absolute magic. Sustained aerobic exercise triggers the release of an incredible protein called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF for short. Simply put, BDNF acts like premium fertilizer for your brain. It massively multiplies the growth and the survival of brand new neurons. In animal studies, just having regular access to a running wheel led to a 2 to 3-fold increase in neurogenesis. It's literally rewiring the brain to combat depression, often just as effectively as some pharmaceutical interventions.
Section 5. The runner's high myth. Endorphins versus endocannabinoids. All right, this brings us to our final micro-level act, and honestly, we're going to look at a massive scientific plot twist regarding how exercise alters our neurochemistry. If you've ever been on a long, exhausting run, you've probably felt it, the legendary runner's high. That sudden wave of happiness, endless energy, and a sharp drop in pain. For decades, the public and scientists alike have credited this awesome feeling to a rush of endorphins. But is that actually true? Well, it's absolutely true that intense aerobic exercise causes a massive flood of endorphins in your bloodstream. These are your body's naturally occurring opiates, and they spike as a regulatory mechanism. Basically, they're stepping in to help your body deal with the intense physical stress and the peripheral muscle pain of a really heavy workout. But here's the catch. To actually feel euphoria in your mind, to get that sweet reduction in anxiety, a chemical has to be able to physically enter the brain. And to do that, it has to pass through the blood-brain barrier. This is a highly restrictive, tightly packed border of cells designed to protect your central nervous system from toxins. So here is the crazy twist. Endorphins, they're large, bulky molecules. They are literally too big to cross the blood-brain barrier. They stay out in your body, soothing your tired leg muscles, but they never reach your brain to change your mood. No way, right? The true hero of the runner's high is actually your endocannabinoid system. These are small, highly lipophilic molecules that slip across the barrier into the brain with total ease. Specifically, endurance exercise triggers a massive release of an endocannabinoid called anandamide. This little molecule floods straight into your brain's emotion and memory centers, binding right to your CB1 receptors. It modulates pain, drops your anxiety, and amazingly, it mirrors the exact intoxicating, euphoric, and pain-relieving effects of exogenous cannabinoids, like medical marijuana. Your body is essentially producing its own natural high on demand, just because you decided to push your physical limits. And the best part? Researchers point out that this ties perfectly into your dopaminergic reward system. It creates an incredibly healthy feedback loop. This system triggers dopamine, sparking a genuine, scientifically measurable addiction to the feeling of aerobic exercise itself. So, knowing that a long run literally fertilizes your brain cells, fortifies your skeleton, and floods your mind with natural mood-altering endocannabinoids, the next time you feel that craving to get off the couch, will you finally understand this cellular magic that's pulling you to the pavement? I really hope this explainer has given you a whole new appreciation for the science of sweat. Thanks for hanging out with me, and keep moving.